Is Microsoft leaving the Xbox behind? Let's discuss. What's up guys, and welcome back to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. Here on the channel, we talk the latest Xbox news. We do unboxings, I do game reviews. Basically, if it has something to do with Xbox, I talk about it on the channel. So if you are an Xbox fan, whether you're a vet or you're new to the family, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and set your notifications to all to get alerted to whenever I post a new video. Now, one of the big Xbox stories this week has been causing a lot of confusion amongst the fan base. There's a rumor floating around that a Game of the Year worthy Xbox exclusive may be going multi-platform soon. And a couple of gaming insiders, more specifically Nate the Hate and Loli Lolelo, both of whom have a pretty good track record when it comes to leaks and rumors, they're suspecting that it might be Hi-Fi Rush coming to Nintendo Switch or even PS5. Jez Corden over at Windows Central also reported on this, saying that rumors of Xbox reportedly exploring bringing a backlog of their older titles to other platforms have been landing in his lap ever since CFO Tim Stewart spoke at the Wells Fargo Summit. As a reminder, Tim Stewart at that summit infamously said that he wanted to bring Game Pass to every platform, including PlayStation, including Nintendo Switch. Later on, Phil Spencer denied that they wanted to do that. But as they say, ladies and gentlemen, where there is smoke, there is fire. And Jez Corden says on top of these guys saying that, oh yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is coming to Nintendo Switch, maybe even PS5, that his own sources lead him to believe that this may be a reality. But it doesn't stop there. Apparently, Microsoft has also explored the possibility of putting Sea of Thieves on PS5 and Nintendo Switch. Or rather, they did look into it at one point and no one's really sure if that's still happening. GameFile News apparently talked to someone with knowledge of the PS5 version of Sea of Thieves, but they couldn't really nail down if that's something that was still in the works or if it was a project that was ultimately scrapped. Separately, Jeff Grubb, once again stirring up trouble on Game Mess Morning, said that Sea of Thieves, he heard that it could possibly be coming to PS5 and Switch. Now, there has been a lot of back and forth on whether or not Xbox should actually go through with this. There's been a lot of extreme reactions, a lot of meltdowns I'm seeing on Twitter. I have a lot of questions about it myself, but both of these titles, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves, I feel like they make the most sense if any of Xbox first-party games were going to be ported to another system. Hi-Fi Rush is just the type of game that I feel would do really well on Nintendo. It's bright, it's colorful, upbeat, overall optimistic. And Sea of Thieves is obviously an online multiplayer game. If they expand their player base beyond Xbox and PC, that will benefit the game in the long run. It'll make it more populated, it'll make it more fun, it'll give the developers an incentive to keep updating it, keep working on it. Of course, that all depends on if it supports crossplay. That's a whole separate can of worms. I don't know exactly how they would do it. But as a reminder, guys, nothing is confirmed yet. This is all rumors. But chances are pretty dang good that these are conversations that Microsoft and Xbox are having. Should they bring some of their older games to other platforms, to Nintendo Switch, to PlayStation 5, not just PC and Xbox? If this is true, if they make Hi-Fi Rush, sleeper hit of 2023, one of the best things that Xbox has done this generation, and other titles, and they make them multi-platform, what does it mean for Xbox's future? All I can really say as a fan is that the back and forth needs to stop. Now, back in 2019, Xbox brought one of its first-party games to Nintendo Switch, much like they're rumored to do with Hi-Fi Rush. The game was called Ori and the Blind Forest. And a year later, Phil Spencer said, "I don't really love this idea that for every one of our games, there becomes this little rumor on it. Is it going to end up on the Switch or not? I feel we should set a better expectation with our fans than that." And here we are, 4 years later, in the same situation. Is this game, Hi-Fi Rush, going to be coming to Switch? Fans deserve clarification on the subject before they make any further investment into the Xbox platform, whether it's buying an Xbox or subscribing to Xbox Game Pass. Some of the games are exclusive, like Starfield and Redfall, but others are not, like all of the Activision Blizzard games. We need answers. What's the deal? We may not like it, but whenever a first-party PlayStation studio makes a game, I'm talking Insomniac, I'm talking Santa Monica Studios, there is a clear expectation, there is a clear understanding that that game is only going to be on PlayStation. Maybe a couple of years later, they port it to PC, but At least in the beginning, it's only on PlayStation. Fans don't have to worry about buying a PlayStation 5 for a game like Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok, only for PlayStation to turn around and be like, just kidding, those games are available on Xbox, a console that you already had. Here are some potential scenarios for Xbox if this indeed turns out to be true. There's going to be a lingering question amongst fans of, hey, if these games are coming out on every platform, why should I buy an Xbox? But on the flip side of that, these games that we know and love, because they're being released on multiple platforms, they're going to sell more copies and get more exposure because they're being exposed to more customers. And it really makes me wonder, is this part of a bigger strategy going on at Xbox? You see, after Microsoft acquired Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, Xbox is much more than a platform holder. They're one of the industry's biggest gaming publishers. And I have often wondered many times on this channel if there is a future where Xbox is just like, you know what, we're not going to sell consoles, we're just going to focus on games distribution. Because the reality is, guys, Xbox sales are declining. In some regions, it's worse than others, like in Europe, they fell off by like over 50%. But overall, hardware sales for Xbox are not doing well year over year. And on top of that, there are already research and financial firms predicting that the home console gaming market, the growth of that sector is going to slow significantly over the next couple of years. So if you're Microsoft, it's clear that the growth of your gaming division is not going to come by selling a bunch of Xbox consoles. It's going to happen by getting more people to buy your games and to subscribe to your services like Game Pass, which they've said a million times over in so many different ways that that is their goal. We know that Xbox loses money on every console sold. They don't make money off of selling you a Series X or Series S. They make money by people going onto their Xbox consoles and buying their games and subscribing to Game Pass. Same thing on PC. So if you're Microsoft, why not cut out the hardware middleman and just go straight to what makes you money? Now, of course, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. And Xbox leaders have already come out and said that no, the console experience, the traditional Xbox, is going to be a part of the gaming ecosystem for a while now, that it's very important to them. In reality, whatever Xbox does next is probably going to be a mix of things. But when it comes to Microsoft making Xbox exclusives multi-platform, bringing them to Switch, bringing them to PlayStation 5, we may already have a clue on what they're going to do based on another industry. We're already seeing this sort of play out with streaming services. You see, back in the early days of streaming, there was only like one or two services that you really needed. Netflix was the big one, and maybe HBO if you were into Game of Thrones. But even with your Netflix subscription, you can watch all sorts of stuff from a bunch of different networks. But as Netflix started to grow, the big media companies like Warner Brothers and Disney, they were like, oh, word? What? We gotta get in on this streaming thing, guys. What are we doing? Let's make our own streaming services. Let's pull all of our shows off of Netflix, and then we'll make our own exclusive content because that's going to make people want to sign up for our streaming service. Warner Brothers, Disney, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime, they all went on a crazy bajillion-dollar spending spree trying to beef up their library of content, make exclusive shows. But even after all of that investment, even after pumping out all of that content, they saw that it didn't necessarily lead to subscriber growth or profitability. It's gotten so crazy that even Disney Plus, backed by this huge media giant, lost over 4 million subscribers in 2023. And now everyone is crashing back down to earth. Warner Brothers, Disney, they're cutting back costs on production, they're not making as many shows, and they're cutting thousands of jobs. According to NBC, Netflix has curbed its content spending growth, and Warner Brothers Discovery and Disney have both announced thousands of job eliminations and billions of dollars in content spending cuts in recent months. They're raising their prices, they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff like eliminating password sharing. This is not the stuff that you see from companies who are trying to grow. They're struggling so much for money and revenue that some platforms are even licensing out their old shows, their older titles, to competing platforms. Does that sound familiar? Oh yeah, that sounds like how it used to be. HBO has shows on Netflix like Insecure and 6 Feet Under. CBS and therefore Paramount Plus have shows on Netflix too, like Young Sheldon. For weeks, every time I opened up Netflix, they were like, hey, you should watch Suits, which was developed by USA Network, not by Netflix, but they're licensing licensing it again, and it's having huge success for them. Now, of course, while we're seeing some HBO shows make their way over to Netflix, being licensed out again to maybe get some extra cash, their big players are still exclusive to HBO, like Game of Thrones, like House of Dragon. And that's exactly how I think Xbox is going to handle this multi-platform situation going forward. I would bet money that's exactly how Xbox is going to handle it. They take their older games that have been out for a while, their smaller projects, but their marquee stuff, their Game of Thrones level IP, like the next Elder Scrolls, the next Halo game, Fable, the big stuff, that's going to remain Xbox exclusive. I don't think they're going to go and just make everything multi-platform and abandon Xbox. Of course, even if they took that approach, older titles go multi-platform, newer, bigger ones stay exclusive, it could still backfire spectacularly. Can I see the logic of Microsoft making certain Xbox titles multi-platform? Sure. But even if it logically makes sense, that's still ignoring the fact that the other platform holders, Nintendo, PS5, they would never in a million years do the same thing that Xbox is doing. Nintendo's not gonna make frickin' Breath of the Wild playable on Xbox consoles. Same thing with PlayStation. They're not gonna bring over God of War 2018. So I could see why fans are frustrated. Xbox is potentially, again, these are all rumors, but they are potentially putting in the work to bring their titles to other platforms and getting nothing in return, except maybe a few more extra dollars on sales. And we also know from Phil Spencer himself, he made this claim during the whole Activision Blizzard FTC trial craziness, that whenever Xbox ships a game on PlayStation, like Deathloop or Ghostwire Tokyo, PlayStation takes like an insane percentage of the sales, something like 30%, which they then use to keep games off of Xbox to make the Xbox brand smaller. If that's true, Xbox is essentially funding their own destruction. But it's clear to anyone who's been following Xbox over the past couple of years, over the past generations, that their business model is shifting significantly. Are they going to abandon Xbox consoles? Probably not anytime soon. But the console is just going to be one part of their business. It's not going to be the main attraction anymore. Especially with rumors of the Xbox Next potentially being a more affordable console, less powerful than the PS6, but more powerful than the PS5 Pro. Their focus is shifting, and that's a good thing. I know we're all afraid of change. We don't want to let go of the good old days of the Xbox 360, of the OG Xbox, but this is what Xbox needs to do in order to remain in the gaming industry, in order for them to keep making games. And as the home console market starts to shrink, other platform holders are going to have to figure out what to do too. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.